Happy New Year, hybrid shooters. It's Jason. We're outside of Fushimi Inari praying for good fortune in 2017. But more importantly, introing you guys to my user experience review on the newly released Sony a6500. So right now we're in Japan, where I'm spending a lot of quality time with this camera, shooting both stills and videos. So I'm very excited to share with you guys how it's been working out for me. We'll be traveling throughout the country, so sit back, relax, and enjoy not only my a6500 review, but also the beautiful scenery of Japan. Alright, so we'll start off with the autofocusing capabilities of this camera first. It is fast. It will nail focus on your subject in a snap. And when you combine that with lock-on AF, it does a stellar job tracking the subject, which makes this a great high-speed action camera for photographers who do a lot of sports or wildlife. Alright, so to be honest, I'm not much of a sports photographer, but if you want to learn more about this camera in a sports situation, definitely check out that one camera guy, as he specializes in sports photography. But for the rest of us who don't do sports or wildlife, we can still benefit from the fast AF, especially those who do a lot of street, wedding, journalism, or even concert photography. The a6500 is also a great portrait camera as well. Like its two bigger brothers, the a7R2 and the a7S2, the a6500 not only has IAF, but also continuous IAF, which makes it great to nail focus on a moving subject's eyes. Alright, so the video shooters are kind of bored right now at this point. Don't worry, I didn't forget about you guys. You guys will be happy to know that the fast AF that this camera is capable of works extremely well in video too. In fact, you're seeing it in action right now. We're shooting with the Zeiss 24mm at 1.8 with face detection on, and it's doing a great job keeping up with me. Even when shooting objects, the a6500 grabs focus extremely quickly. Personally, I find that it works best for me when I have the AF drive speed at normal, the track sensitivity at responsive, and the focus being at the center. That way, when you move from one object to another, the focus shifts pretty naturally. So overall, I'm very confident in the autofocus when shooting video. Alright, so earlier we talked about how the a6500 can be a great high-speed action sports camera. You can shoot up to 11 frames per second for up to 301 JPEGs or 107 RAWs, yada yada yada. The point is, you already know this camera can shoot a lot of photos in a single burst, but the main reason why I brought this up is because the a6500 has a significantly improved writing buffer. With the a7R2 and the a6300, you can fire a lot of shots, but you'd have to wait until all the photos get written into the SD card first before you can review any of them, and that can be frustrating at times, especially when you need to check your shots right away. It is better on the a6500 because now you can check individual photos right away while the rest get written into the card, and it's nice to have this progress meter at the top giving you a status on how many photos are left. However, there's still a bit of a lag when you review the photos during the writing progress, but it beats seeing this message for a minute or two long and not seeing any of the photos at all. Let's begin to talk about some of the latest features that have been introduced to this camera. We'll start off with in-body image stabilization first. Now this feature is going to be huge to a lot of videographers out there who do a lot of run and gun shooting like documentaries, event coverages, or even vlogs. Now the problem with a lot of these amazing lenses out there, especially the ones with the wider apertures, is that they don't have built-in IS, or what Sony calls it, optical steady shot. It is painful for those of us who often have to shoot handheld and see jittery footages later when we edit. Which really sucks, because that's exactly what prevented me from using my a6300 much or even at all unless it was on a monopod or a tripod. But now with in-body image stabilization, video shooters will be able to shoot with any lenses, especially the fast primes or even cinema lenses, handheld without much of an issue. And for the photographers out there, you guys will enjoy being able to shoot at a slower shutter speed and still get great results. The next feature that I want to get into is the touchscreen. Now this is new to the a6000 series. I love being able to tap on the screen where I want the camera to focus on. Yeah, there's a bit of a lag, but honestly, it's not that bad. It beats the hell out of changing the focus area with the control wheel like I was doing previously on the a6300 and the a7R2. In fact, my workflow is much faster now thanks to the touchscreen. I usually like to leave my AF area on wide, and it usually does a decent job most of the time getting what I need in focus. But when it does not, I can easily tap on the screen to focus where I need it to. And I can easily cancel out of the touch focus by hitting the center button to go back to wide focusing or holding it down for center focusing. I can do this all seamlessly without going back to the menu and change the focus area, which saves me a lot of time, especially during crucial moments. Now the funny thing about the touchscreen is that it's actually more responsive in video mode. You can easily set the focus in different areas very quickly just by tapping around the screen. If you guys watch my rack focus video, I predicted correctly that the touchscreen on the A6500 does make pulling focus from one object to another much easier. Just look at some of these buttery smooth rack focus shots. And when you enable center lock on AF, you can tap on your moving subject, which is pretty useful in certain situations, like maybe a bride walking down the aisle or your kid chasing after a soccer ball or something. Now, a lot of people are looking at the A6500 as a video camera more so than a photo camera, and rightfully so. The 4K video on this is crisp as and that's because the camera is actually shooting in 6K, but oversamples the information to produce high quality 4K footage with exceptional details retained. By the way, if you haven't already been watching this review in 4K, you might want to do so now. Of course, this isn't exactly new. The 6300 is already capable of shooting crispy 4K footage already. However, it's known to overheat extremely quickly, which causes the camera to shut off on its own. So Sony implemented this thing in the 6500 called the auto power off temperature, which basically allows you to continue using the camera to its maximum 30-minute recording limit despite the heat warning. However, I would advise you to use that feature at your own discretion. The overheating issue isn't entirely fixed, but at least you don't have to worry about the camera shutting off on its own. So with the overheating issue kind of solved, you can kind of say we have a mini A7S II here. No, it doesn't have crazy low light performance, but it does have a lot of other cool stuff. It can shoot 120 frames per second in full HD, so you're going to get some amazing slow motion shots. In addition to that, the A6500 can also shoot in both S-Log 2 and S-Log 3, which are flatter color profiles that give you more control over your colors, highlights, and shadows thanks to its 14 stops of dynamic range. Now, we're not going to get into details of the inner workings of S-Log in this review. You just need to know it's available to you in case you want to dabble in color grading. But if you're interested in learning more, I'll have some recommended links down below for you to check out. Alright guys, so after using this camera for about 2 weeks in Japan now, I gotta say I've fallen in love with the form factor of the A6500. It's light, it's compact, it's very comfortable on the grip, and when you pair it up with these tiny little E-mount APS-C lenses, you got a powerhouse package in the palm of your hand and you wouldn't break a sweat. Literally, I can pair this up with the G-Unit crane and get some nice, smooth, stabilized videos without getting fatigued too quickly or at all, versus if I were to use the DJI Ronin M. However, your biceps will be more balanced out if you use the Ronin M versus one of these pistol-handed gimbals. But in all seriousness, the size and the capabilities of the A6500 makes it not only great for travel or for vlogging, but also lightweight, fast, run and gun setup for pro work as well. Alright, we're back in the US now, and I see that we have a lot of questions in the comments about the AF on this camera when adapting third-party lenses. Long story short, if you want the best AF performance out of this camera, stick with the native Sony lenses. They work the best, period. But if you still want to adapt lenses, here are a few things to consider. For photographers or videographers who rely on AF, depending on which adapter you use, you may not be able to take advantage of the AF features that this camera has to offer, like IAF or lock-on tracking AF, which really defeats the purpose of the Sony camera in my opinion. However, there is the MC11 adapter that allows you to take advantage of the set AF features, but it only works decently at best with compatible Sigma lenses. On top of that, you might run into communication issue between the lens and the camera. Now, not on the A6500, but I've had the A7R II and the A7S II freezed up on me before, or the f-stop grayed out, preventing me from changing the aperture unless I remount the entire setup. Now, that was with the Metabones Mark IV Smart T adapter. So unless you have the patience and the will to work with the limitations of adapting lenses, I highly suggest you sticking with the native Sony lenses. Now, of course, if you don't mind manual focusing, then adapting lenses can be a great option, especially cinematographers who are looking to adapt cinema lenses on this. If that's the case, then I highly recommend picking up a set of Rokinon Cinema lenses, as they're known to be killer quality lenses on a budget. Alright, so we're just about done here, and by now you probably noticed that a huge portion of this review is about the video aspect of this camera, and I truly think that's where the A6500 shines. But if you strip away a few of its features, then it's practically an A6300. So the question is this camera worth $400 more than the A6300? I say it depends. If you're primarily shooting stills, then save the money, go with the A6300. Really, you're not missing much from the A6500. But if shooting in high-speed continuous with less buffer lag is important in your line of work, especially sports or wildlife, then I say the A6500 handles it better. If you're somebody who shoots a lot of videos, I mean, the A6300 can actually do a pretty good job, but I would highly recommend using lenses with optical steady shot or just leaving it on a gimbal or a tripod. However, I personally think the A6500 is a much better camera for video just because of its in-body image stabilization and reduced overheating issues when shooting in 4K. Overall, if you're a hybrid shooter such as myself, pick up the A6500. It is the perfect all-around camera for both stills and videos. Thanks for watching, guys. If this review has helped you out in any way, let me know in the comments down below. And consider supporting the channel by purchasing either of the cameras with the Amazon links. And if you haven't already yet, subscribe to my channel for more Sony Alpha related videos such as this one. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.